I have my Nintendo Switch here. I actually did a repaste of this. This is a V1 Switch, which I can overclock, as you can see here. And it really does help. The overclocking really does help with some games. So for example, I was just playing No Man's Sky, and I can actually get it to get to like 40 or 45 FPS with the overclock in handheld. And when I'm in docked mode, even at 1080p, I'm able to get it to like legitimately locked 30. So overclocking is awesome. But of course, overclocking does increase temperatures. I think it was probably about 2 years ago, repaste my Switch with really good thermal paste, TF8, which is a really, really high-end thermal paste. Let's see if I have it right here. I use this stuff all the time, and it made a big difference. Actually, the fans are generally much quieter, much quieter, and the temperatures seem to be running lower. And I can manage my temperatures because I have a modded Switch. But I have some of this other stuff lying around. For my ROG Ally, both of my Steam Decks, and my Legion Go, it's this stuff here. It's called Honeywell PTM7950. It's an alternative to thermal paste. Basically, you put it on. It's almost like a pad. You cut it out, you put it on, and then it's like a thermal paste pad type thing, right in between in terms of texture. And then over time, basically it cures, I guess is what would be the right term, or burns in or something, and it actually changes and it becomes more of a solid material. And in theory, when you have good PTM, it actually will work much better than thermal paste. So luckily, it's fairly easy to get into that in the Nintendo Switch. If you have like a brand new Switch that's in warranty, you probably don't want to do this. This thing is, very out of warranty. Yeah, it's still actually in pretty decent enough condition. Again, this is a thermal. I think this was the TF8. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like the texture and the consistency of it. I use this stuff all the time. I think it's TF8. And you can see here, despite that I probably did this, probably actually was 3 years ago now. I think it was 2020 that I did this. If not slightly even before that. It looks like it's in pretty good shape, this paste here. So the Honeywell kit, this is one I got from eBuy7. Previously I was using some stuff I got from Amazon, which does appear to be real as well. I don't know if it's like authentic Honeywell, but it seems to work well. I did it on my Switch and my Legion Go and all that too. But it comes with all this stuff in here. Okay, and it has these little tabs to help you apply, because it's actually fairly difficult to apply and very easy to mess up, like physically damage the pads. So you can see there the outline of the chip, the Tegra chip. You don't need to go, definitely don't want to go under, but you don't need to go massively over that. So, I'm probably going to go slightly over though, just because it's very easy for me to kind of mess this up. So I'm actually going to go probably there. Okay, it's so hard to do on camera because it's so small. You can see there I took off the back piece. I think you can see that. So I got that off. And now it's all over the place. So I actually managed to do it without doing too much damage. You can see, like I did, a little nick the corner there. You can see that on camera. Stuff isn't super cheap, but it's also not super expensive. It's more expensive than thermal paste for sure. Probably around the same as thermal pad. Thermal pads are kind of expensive. So now I will tell you one thing. When you first add PTM, I tell this on all my videos, when you first add PTM, it's in this type of format, which is like a thermal paste. You may actually you probably will get worse results. Right? So you're going to fire your thing up and you're going to get either the same results as you had before, or in most cases you'll get worse results. You'll be like, what the hell? This is giving me worse results now. So what it is you actually need to heat the paste up here for an extended period of time, and basically what I call like a burn-in phase. So you basically what I do is I just game, if I'm on a non-switch, if I'm on a Windows computer or something, I just run benchmarks for like 10 to 15 minutes. I run that benchmark, and then what I do is I let it cool down. Then I run the benchmark again, let it cool down. I do that several times. And then after I've done that a bunch of times, then I literally just use the device. Like, play games or do whatever, use it for like a day or two. And you'll find that, the second day or third day, it actually gets considerably better as it gets to that like curing phase or burn-in phase or whatever you want to call it. So definitely don't freak out when you do it and then all of a sudden your performance goes down. That's pretty normal. I'm also noticing there's like a pretty inadequate amount of some kind of blob of paste on there. I didn't do that. That's super dry. So whatever that chip is, it's probably RAM chip. I'm actually going to put a thermal pad on that. That looks really thick there. I don't think that's going to be good. That's way too big. Yeah, gigantic. So that actually may mean that, because this is 1.5, that may mean that we might be able to get away with 0.5 actually, in fact. These are 1mm, which appears to be fine. It's not putting way too much pressure or anything like that. 1.5 is just too big. I can tell you that for sure. So I think you can do probably 0.5 or 1. Seems to be fine. And then here, let's just put this on real quick. See if I'm making contact. Yep, it is actually making contact. So 0.5 appears to be the way to go. So, you know, it's kind of hard to get this stuff off. I've heard that freezing it does help. There we go. So it's technically way over. Like the actual chip is like here and slightly even in from that, slightly in from that, and way in from that. But because I mess up the corner when I take it off, like you can see that corner is messed up, which is fine because it's off. It's actually off the chip. That's why I slightly overcut my PTM, which I recommend doing. It's a little pricey, but I mean, don't get stingy with it because you're going to cut it and then you're going to get a messed up corner like that there. And you want this stuff to be as flat as possible. You don't want to like move this stuff around again. It's not a paste. So once it's on there, you don't want to be like shifting it around. Okay. Is going to basically just sit on there. I could put a little bit on this to get some off the heat pipe as well into this. Okay. So that's good. Hopefully that will pull a little bit extra heat off as well. So we're obviously going to be pulling heat off the chip into the pipe now because of the PTM in theory. And then the pipe itself is going to blow out some heat out of the system. And then obviously, you know, we have this huge metal heat shield here, heat sink / shield. So that'll pull more off as well. That is now, when that's screwed down, that's touching there. That's good. That's going to bring some heat out there. And that's touching now too. And there's no more flex. Before there was flex. So that's good. And that should bring some heat off as well. It's the next day. I played for a little while last night, probably an hour and a half to 2 hours, to basically get that burn in as I was mentioning before, kind of get an idea of how that's going to be. I aimed for 60 FPS in all cases, and I ran for 20 minutes for each test. 60 FPS, you know, basically you don't get that high, so it's basically unlocked, I'd call it. You're sitting in around 30 in docked mode and a little bit higher out of docked mode, maybe like 45 or so like that based on the resolution. Handheld tests were done at 1428 megahertz CPU, 768 GPU, and 133 megahertz on the memory. The only different for the dock mode is I just increased the CPU overclock even more, so it's a very high overclock on the dock, just to make sure I was getting that 30 FPS there. So that's the only difference between the two of them. And we don't need to go over too much of it. We can just look at the actual outcome results here. So temperatures in handheld went down a little bit. So the SoC went down by 0.8, PCB went down by 2, skin went down by 0.5. Not massive, just maybe a little bit, but you know, not a huge temperature drop in terms of raw temperatures. But what we do see is a huge decrease in the fan speeds there. So 31% is the decrease there. So we were at 66.5% fan speed beforehand, and then we ended up at 35.5. So that is a huge decrease in fan speed. So the system is running considerably cooler, but what's happening is the fans just run significantly slower. And so, you know, the raw temperatures that you actually measure are, you know, basically the same overall, but the fans don't have to work even remotely as hard to basically get those temperatures down. So it is running considerably cooler, or in this case, it's able to evacuate that air and get that heat out of there much easier with just a basic fan just barely spinning, whereas before it really had to rip the fan to get the temperatures out. And of course, that translates to considerably quieter dB here. So on the vent, you know, measuring directly to the vent itself, it's a -15 on the dB. That's huge. That is a considerable drop in noise there. And then basically just looking at the Nintendo Switch from the front, I'm also a -8 dB. So that is a huge quality of life improvement on this device. That same result was reflected in the docked mode over here. So, you know, the temperatures are actually down even more. So 3 degrees, 4 degrees, and 2 degrees. It's actually running cooler as well. And the fans are also running quite a bit lower as well. So, you know, 46.1% versus 37.5, which is interesting because, I mean, we're seeing lower fan speeds overall in docked mode. as well, and also decrease temperatures as well. So overall, I mean, we can see here that we're getting positive results. We are lowering temperature slightly, especially in docked mode. What we're really seeing here is that the fans are working much less hard overall, and that's resulting in considerably lower fan noise as well. So we're getting a quieter system, a cooler system, and potentially allowing ourselves a little bit more overclocking, potentially even higher than that if need be in the most demanding titles.